Okay, so this is part 3, and I will probably have to do one more part to complete it. Um, Another thing, if y'all hear little birds, they're my little angels. They're loose right now, so if y'all hear them, just please, they're loose. They're my little angel babies, and they love to obviously talk as I am talking. So Nick continues on with the Atlantean time war and the Gnostic apocalypse. As I said, this is the third part of it. Interestingly, the scientists at CERN are also looking for quark gluon plasma, which is basically the primordial chaos formed from. They call this experiment chasing the unicorn, which is a phrase that refers to the pursuit of an unattainable object or impossible goal, especially without a practical plan. It can also refer to continual dissatisfaction or even finding Christ, who was depicted as a unicorn in medieval art. So, is it possible these modern sorcerers are trying to chase down God? Ironically, this is what Nimrod was trying to do at the Tower of Babel, so he could murder the Father in heaven, usurp his throne, and become the king of the universe. And CERN has been called the modern Tower of Babel. CERN is also the home of the World Wide Web, where using instant translators, everyone can basically speak the same language. The Bible says Babel's construction was possible only because at that time everyone on earth spoke one language. Similarly, the time traveling scientists involved in the so called Montauk Project supposedly tried to kill Christ before his crucifixion. Apparently, they were unable to, so they took some of his blood instead and attempted to clone him to create the Antichrist or even an army of Antichrist, kind of like the Moon Children. Ironically, Montauk can be etymologically broken down to mean one speech or even moon speech. And the project is usually represented using a picture of a horse statue on top of a pyramid. This method of breaking down words and images to find hidden meaning is called twilight language. And according to some some conspiracy theory, this is a secret dialect used by the Illuminati. The Montauk Project can easily be disproven as mostly a hoax. However, there are kernels of truth in the story, and the modern mythology it created has still influenced the beliefs of many unwitting truth seekers living in this post truth age, and beliefs create consensus reality. This crazy conspiracy theory, which was the basis for Stranger Things and South Park's Imagination Land miniseries, claims to be a mind control experiment that took place in the 1980s, where children were kidnapped and turned into sleeper cells and telepathic super soldiers or Montauk boys who could open portals into the past, other planets, and even the collective unconscious, an astral underworld made up of humanity's hopes and fears, dreams, and nightmares. So, despite being mostly unreal, the ultimate goal of the Montauk Project was still achieved, which was to reshape the world's psychic landscape, reshaping society in the process. Whether or not real portals and mind control experiments were involved is irrelevant. The beliefs this conspiracy theory inspired weren't enough. The ideas were the mind control experiment, and the human imagination was the portal. Just like in South Park's Imagination Land miniseries, humanity's collective unconscious was and continues to be subject to terrorist attacks, but in the form of subliminal messages and mind fracturing beliefs, which have effectively made many people fluent in a New Age dialect or Twilight language. And language affects perception, which shapes the world we live in. Another way to explain how perceptions and beliefs shape the world is through the concept of hyperreality. When something is fake is treated more real than what's actually real, like money, it becomes hyper real. To better understand this idea, imagine a fake news story that tells everyone the banks have crashed. They haven't, but everyone believes they have. So they start pulling all of the cash out of their accounts, causing the banks to crash anyways. So a fake event became a real event or a hyper reality. In another example, party fictional QAnon conspiracies caused real people to storm the Capitol. We are not in a spiritual prison or simulation, but a simulation of a simulation or a simulacrum. But I digress. This is the Montauk Project. This is South Park's Imagination Land series, and here's Stranger Things with their rainbow symbolism and here and telepathic powers. Nick continues. The more you read about the Montauk Project, the more ridiculous it gets. However, the Twilight language embedded in the story still seems relevant. The so-called time tunnel used by the scientists at Montauk was said to have been a reopened Stargate originally created by Crowley, who really did visit the city of Montauk sometime in the 1900s. According to the lore, Crowley used the Stargate to contact enlightened aliens from Sirius who colonized Mars before establishing Atlantis on Earth. Then, when it was used during the Montauk Project, the same aliens gifted the scientists there with the technology that became the internet. On another occasion, the portal also interdimensionally interlocked with the Philadelphia experiment, which was supposedly a separate time travel attempt made by the US Navy in 1943. A boat called the USS Eldridge apparently blipped in and out of existence and was accompanied by a green glow and several UFOs upon its return. Ironically, the Twilight language surrounding the USS Eldridge seems to imply something Eldritchian or strange and maddening, like the Nephilim escape cosmic horrors written about by H.P. Lovecraft. Even more ironic, the name Philadelphia can be broken down to mean the love of dolphins. However, the Montauk Project had other incarnations. Apparently, it was an extension of a Nazi super soldier program within Operation Paperclip, as well as the appropriately named Project Pegasus. Andrew Basaggio, a lawyer who ran for president in 2016, claims he was a Montauk boy involved in Project Pegasus, which used a so-called jump room to send him to Mars, along with Barack Obama, obviously. Basaggio also claims he was sent back to the Gettysburg Address and said the same time travel technology was used by the Vatican to create the chronovisor, a device described by the Italian Benedict monk and exorcist Pellegrino Ernetti, which he built with the help of Nazi rocket scientist Werner von Braun. While sharing this story with Father Francois Brune, a Catholic priest, the monk said he used the chronovisor to view events in the past, like Christ's crucifixion. This idea was demonstrated in the show Devs. Another similar ideas were also hinted at in the Da Vinci Code sequel, Angels and Demons. when the Illuminati threatens to blow up the Vatican with antimatter in order to usurp the papacy. Funny enough, the Montauk project supposedly led to the formation of Project Looking Glass, which is the time travel conspiracy at the center of the 17th letter movement. Apparently, it's how Trump plays 5D chess. Project Looking Glass was recently made mainstream by Bob Lazar, who claimed he learned about it while working in a place called Dreamland at Area 51 when he spoke with Joe Rogan on the comedian's world famous podcast. Project Looking Glass is named after an interdimensional portal in an Alice in Wonderland book, which is about a young girl who enters a psychedelic and dreamlike underworld through a rabbit hole. Apparently, Project Looking Glass was also responsible for creating the Yellow Cube, a machine similar to the quantum computer in Devs, which could see into potential future timelines. Supposedly, it was used by the Freemason writers of The Simpsons for predictive programming purposes. Even funnier, CERN has another machine called Alice. And the year Trump became president, CERN's April Fool's Day joke was about an ancient particle accelerator discovered on Mars. So, story goes, ever since Montauk's portal was created, it has retro casually been the focal point of a temporal war between astral travelers or black and white magicians who have been around since Atlantis. And the Montauk Project seems to be CERN's party fictional or hyperreal predecessor. And I will stop right here and continue on the last two on the next video. I will be right back with the other video.